What's going on, guys? The NFL draft is here. Tomorrow, round one will be kicking off, and so I'm here today with my mock draft. The first round I have is my first mock draft I have ever done, so this should be pretty interesting. And the gameplay you're going to be seeing here shows the players that I and most people expect to go 1 and 2 overall: Andrew Luck to the Indianapolis Colts and Robert Griffin III to the Washington Redskins. So there's 2 picks out of the way. Moving on to number 3 now, the Minnesota Vikings, my favorite team. I've talked about this pick a lot, and I still think there's only one right selection for the Vikings to make, and that is offensive tackle Matt Kalil out of USC. I think he could be a possible 2-position fix with the Vikings moving their current left tackle Charlie Johnson to guard, and it would help protect Christian Ponder, give him time to throw. So I think Matt Kalil is the guy who the Vikings have to go with. And now we move on, number 4, the Cleveland Browns, and I have them mocked to get Trent Richardson, running back out of Alabama. Obviously, they need a running back with Peyton Hillis now being in Kansas City, and Trent Richardson is a guy who I think could be one of the top 5 running backs in the league. I really liked watching him in college, and I think that he will be the guy that the Cleveland Browns select tomorrow, number 4 overall. Number 5 now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be on the clock, and I have them taking Morris Claiborne because Rondé Barber, he's not getting any younger. He is an aged veteran, and they have Aqib Talib, who is going to be having his trial later after the draft, and so there's still uncertainty at that position, and they have the opportunity to get Morris Claiborne, a guy who can be an elite man-to-man cover corner, and I think that's the guy that they have to take. So moving on, number 6 overall, the St. Louis Rams, and I just looked back at the greatest show on turf when the St. Louis Rams were one of the top teams in the NFC, and they had Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Kurt Warner, and Marshall Faulk, and I look now and they need some weapons, so I'm going to give them Justin Blackmon because he is the top receiver available in this draft, and he would provide a weapon for Sam Bradford, and I know he could use one. So moving on now to number 7 overall, this is where it gets interesting for me because the Jacksonville Jaguars have expressed their desire to trade down from the number 7 selection, but I'm not mocking any trades in here. And I've seen a lot of mock drafts giving them Fletcher Cox and Melvin Ingram or even Stephon Gilmore in the top 10. I'm going to go in a different direction. I think their defense is pretty good. They need to get someone for Blaine Gabbert to throw the ball to, and they already have Laurent Robinson. That's not enough. I'm going to go with Michael Floyd, who I think could be a possible number 1 receiver in this league. And you put that guy on an offense with MJD, and suddenly things don't look so bad. And if they're not going to give up on Blaine Gabbert yet, they might as well get him a weapon to throw the ball to. Now moving on to number 8 overall, the Miami Dolphins. I have them mocked to take Ryan Tannehill, quarterback out of Texas A&M. I do not agree with this pick. I'm not sold on Tannehill, but I think his best bet is with Miami and Mike Sherman, their offensive coordinator. And maybe we'll see if Tannehill can prove me and some other doubters wrong. Number 9 now, the Carolina Panthers. I have them taking defensive tackle Fletcher Cox out of Mississippi State. I wanted to put Luke Kuechly here for a while, but I think they need to address that defensive line, and Fletcher Cox is a great prospect, although I could see them taking Kuechly or Stephon Gilmore. Now, number 10, I have the Buffalo Bills taking Luke Kuechly, linebacker out of Boston College, who is one of the top-rated linebackers in this year's draft. And the Bills already picked up Mario Williams this offseason. Their defensive line's looking very good, and adding Kuechly to the mix to their linebacker core make their defense much better. And now, number 11, I have the Kansas City Chiefs taking a little bit of a chance here in drafting Dontari Poe. Kelly Gregg, the current nose tackle, is not getting any younger, and Dontari Poe has a lot of upside, a lot of potential. He did great at the Combine, but his average tape may turn off some teams, and he could slide tomorrow, but since I already gave Luke Kuechly to the Bills, I'm going to put Dontari Poe on the Chiefs. And now we move to number 12 overall, the Seattle Seahawks. They have the opportunity to get a great prospect here, another outside linebacker. Hopefully it's not another Aaron Curry clone. Melvin Ingram out of South Carolina. He's a defensive end, outside linebacker, hybrid type of player, and I think the Seattle Seahawks are one of my teams to look out for in 2012. I like this team a lot, and I think adding Melvin Ingram to this defense could make them a lot better. Now moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. I wanted to put Michael Floyd here, but I had him going in the top 10. So I'm going to mock them and take Riley Rafe, left tackle out of Iowa. And I just think their offensive line could get a lot better, and Rafe is a good prospect. I think this would be a good fit. So now, number 14, the Dallas Cowboys, and I have them taking safety Mark Barron out of Alabama. Safety is a big hole for the Cowboys, and their secondary has been very inconsistent. They no longer have Terrence Newman. They signed Brandon Carr to a big deal and Brodney Poole, but that's not enough. When you look at the NFC East receivers they got to cover that can stretch a field: Hakeem Nicks, Victor Cruz, Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garçon. They need an adequate safety that can make plays on the ball and shore up some of that secondary. So Mark Barron is the guy I think the Cowboys have to choose. Number 15, the Philadelphia Eagles. I have them taking Quentin Coples, a guy who many think will be a bust this year, and I'm not very high on Coples, but I think he's a great fit in their wide 9 scheme. And Coples, I think he can be as good as he wants to be. He is an athletic freak, but he did not even grade himself highly on his effort last year, gave himself a C. So if Coples can try his hardest and Philly can bring out the best in Coples, they can have a potential great player on their defensive line. Now moving on to the New York Jets, number 16, about halfway through, I have them taking Courtney Upshaw. They need to get a rush linebacker, and I think Upshaw just provides so much upside and potential. He did great at Alabama, and Chandler Jones is another guy I think could go here, but I'm going with Courtney Upshaw. Now 17 overall, we're now in the second half of the draft. The Cincinnati Bengals, their first of 2 picks in the first round, and I have them taking cornerback Stephon Gilmore out of South Carolina. He's a guy who's flown up the draft charts this year. At first, I thought he could be an option for the Vikings in the second round, but it's looking more and more like Gilmore is going to go in the top 15. But I have him going number 17 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals, who play opposite of Leon Hall. And that could be a great cornerback duo. So now 18 overall, the San Diego Chargers are on the clock, and I think they need a rush linebacker, and so I'm going with Chandler Jones. I think Courtney Upshaw and Chandler Jones could be switched around between the Jets and the Chargers, but I have Upshaw going to the Jets earlier, leaving Chandler Jones to possibly be that pass rush linebacker San Diego has been looking for. Now number 19, the Chicago Bears, and a lot of people think they're going to go for the best defensive lineman available, possibly a defensive tackle, but I have them going in a different direction because they saw last year what happened when Jay Cutler got hurt. He needs better protection. That offensive line is not very good, and they need someone to help block guys like Jared Allen in the NFC North. So Jonathan Martin is my selection here, offensive tackle out of Stanford. By many, Martin is the 3rd rated offensive tackle in this draft. I think the Bears need to address their offensive line issues early so they can shore that up. So now we go to number 20, and we have the Tennessee Titans, and I have them taking Dre Kirkpatrick because with a loss of Cortland Finnegan, they now need another cornerback there. And so Dre Kirkpatrick is another one of those great Alabama defenders. I think he'd be a good pick for the Tennessee Titans. So now 21 overall. The Cincinnati Bengals with their second pick in the first round, I have them taking guard David DeCastro, who is one of the highest rated guards in this year's class. I think he could go higher in the draft, but I have him falling all the way to Cincinnati at 21 overall. Now we go to the other team in Ohio, the Cleveland Browns, with their second pick in the draft, and I have them taking Kendall Wright because they need some weapons on offense. If Colt McCoy is going to be their guy this year going forward, I do expect them to take a quarterback in maybe the second round, possibly a Brandon Whedon, but Kendall Wright, he's a field stretcher. He was very solid last year. He helped out Robert Griffin, and so I think the Browns have an opportunity to get a good receiver here, and Kendall Wright is that guy. Now we go to 23 overall, and the Detroit Lions will be on the clock. I have them taking Janoris Jenkins because I base a lot of my picks on what they have to deal with in the division. And you look at the receivers now, the Bears added Brandon Marshall, the Packers have Jordy Nelson, a solid number 2, and of course Greg Jennings, are number 1. We'll see what the Minnesota Vikings could do. They could possibly get Alshon Jeffrey, and their best corner right now is Chris Houston. Eric Wright is now in Tampa Bay. They need another cornerback, and I think the opportunity to get Janoris Jenkins is here, and that fills a big hole in that Detroit secondary that could really help out in covering some of those better receivers in the NFC North. Moving on now, 24 overall, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I have them taking Dante Hightower out of Alabama. They already have a lot of great linebackers. I think putting Hightower in there, that can be a great inside linebacker. And I like Hightower a lot. I think he's going to play at a high level in the NFL. On to the Denver Broncos with a 25th overall selection. I have them taking Michael Brockers, and they have a big need at defensive tackle. They drafted Von Miller last year, number 2 overall, and I think their defense continues to get better with Michael Brockers. I could also see Peter Kahns being the pick here, the number 1 center in this year's draft, but I have him sliding down a little bit further. So now, the Houston Texans, 26 overall, I have them taking Stephen Hill. He's the next best receiver available. He's got great size, and he can be a great complementary deep threat to Andre Johnson. And I've already expressed my opinions on the Texans and how much I need another receiver because I'm not really high on Kevin Walter and Jacoby Jones. Continuing to move on, the New England Patriots are their first of 2 first-round selections. I have them taking Shea McClellin at number 27. I've been reading that the Patriots really like this guy, and I think I have to take him here because I think if the Packers have the opportunity, they might scoop up Shea McClellin. So now we move on to the Packers at number 28, and I have them taking Harrison Smith, a guy who I want to fall to the Minnesota Vikings in the second round, but I made this change today in my mock draft because the Packers are releasing Nick Collins. He had a major injury last year, and that leaves a big hole at safety. And while they still need to get a defensive end, a pass rush linebacker opposite of Clay Matthews, I think Harrison Smith is one of the better players available right here, and that Ted Thompson will pick him for the Packers. So now the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock, number 29 overall, and I have them taking Peter Kahn, center out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin puts out a lot of very good offensive line prospects, and Matt Burke is their current center, and he is a veteran whom they'll need to replace very soon, and they also lost Ben Grubbs in free agency, so I see this as an opportunity for the Ravens to rebuild some of their interior offensive line by taking Peter Kahns. Now, number 30 overall in the draft, the San Francisco 49ers, I have them taking Kevin Zeitler, guard out of Wisconsin. Wisconsin linemen go back-to-back in my mock draft as the Niners address a need after getting some offensive weapons this year for Alex Smith. And we now move on to the New England Patriots, their second pick in the first round. I have them taking Devon Still out of Penn State. He has been regarded as a safe pick in this year's draft. He is an interior defensive lineman that can help clog up running lanes for the New England Patriots and help shore up some of that defense. And finally, at 32 overall, the defending Super Bowl champions, the New York Giants, I have them taking Cordy Glenn out of Georgia, and I think the Giants just could work on their offensive line a little bit, and Glenn could go higher in this draft, but I have him falling all the way to 32 for the New York Giants. And that concludes my first mock draft. I'll see tomorrow how it goes. As I've said, I've never made one of these before, so I'm hoping I actually do well and get some picks right tomorrow. I'm looking forward. I've been really excited for the NFL draft, and it's finally here. Tomorrow I'll be glued to the TV watching all 32 picks, and then looking forward to Friday and Saturday. But let me know what you guys thought about my mock draft in the comments section. Leave a like rating if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys after the first round.